Something pretty heavy just happened in my relationship, and I'm reeling, exhausted, and devastated. Last week, I had an important film shoot. I'm a producer-director. I was delayed in picking up the gear, so it was 10:30 p.m. or so before I had a chance to check all the equipment in our shared studio apartment. Still, it was 1:30 hours of work at most, and I could still get enough sleep that night. My girlfriend arrived home around 10 p.m. or so, and the moment I started looking over the gear, she asked me if I needed help with the equipment. Initially, I thought this was a little unusual of an offer because she and I both knew that she doesn't know the gear. I politely reminded her of that fact and that what I needed now was total quiet so I can focus on the 8 to 10 bags I had in my possession to make sure nothing was missing, everything worked. To charge the batteries, etc. We had done projects together in the past. With her starring, she's an artist, and she knew enough to know that, well, she didn't know the gear. So I continued to my task at hand. Then the next question came, do you want to look over your storyboards? I said no, actually storyboards have been done for 2 days. What I really need is quiet. And then the next question came, do you need help with interview questions? I repeated a similar thing. No, interview questions are done. I just need quiet. There was nowhere for me to go in our small studio apartment. So at one point, I put on AirPods to drown her out, but she still talked over the music. I had audio gear, camera gear, and lighting, so even the smallest missing piece could be costly on the day of the shoot. It wasn't a hard task, but I needed to be really focused for that hour and a half. What followed from here, I'm still having trouble getting over or understanding. For the next 2 to 3 hours, I was being offered help, which I didn't need, and I repeated myself again and again with the same refrain, I just need quiet, please, that she repeatedly ignored. Every time I was interrupted, I lost my focus, and I had to start that particular task from the beginning. I was getting more and more desperate as the hours went by. First, I was worried that I wouldn't get enough sleep. Then I started worrying if the task would get finished at all. At a certain point in the night, this was still going on, 2 a.m. or so, I started losing gas. So I shifted strategies and tried going to sleep. The idea was to get a bit of rest and then do it in the morning. But at that point, my heart was racing, and I was so upset and confused about what was going on that I couldn't sleep. So I got up again, with a bit of a second wind, and tried again, and there she was again, offering her help, distracting me. I went from politely asking to be left alone to pleading, to begging. Eventually, I got angry and yelled. Nothing worked. In the end, I got less than an hour of rest that night and was late to my own set because I had to do that essential work I couldn't finish with her interrupting me. The shoot went well somehow, but it could have been a complete disaster with me running on no sleep if I couldn't perform properly. I'm writing all this because I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have had a loving relationship with a lot of common ground and a lot of good times. I've known her for our entire relationship to be somewhat obsessive in her career, theater, and interests, which has its drawbacks. I really love her, but I'm leaning towards breaking up. She gives no explanation for what happened, what the actual heck just happened. Has anyone ever heard of behavior like this in what was seemingly a happy 4 years relationship? I can't seem to get much out of her besides, you seemed stressed. But I wasn't. I was ready. I just don't understand what's going on. The shoot on no sleep was grueling, but I survived. I'm still so physically and mentally tired and beat up by what happened. I'm stunned anyone would behave this way. I just don't understand. Update. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all your questions. This post got a bit bigger than I thought it would. Initially, I thought I'd get 3, maybe 4 replies. Also, thank you all for your analyses and theories about the night in question. They really helped me digest the events and consider multiple valuable perspectives and explanations. I'm really grateful. I even appreciated the posts where people doubted my story or diminished the significance of the night because, well, the night was truly pretty hard to believe and seemed surreal, and I personally wish it wasn't a big deal myself, but it was. I stand by the fact that I found the night to be really confusing and a little scary because I wasn't sure I'd get the work done and or be able to sleep enough. The update is that the next morning something similar happened. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to go to the bathroom, and because of all the chaos, realized I couldn't remember if I had to meet my boss at 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. to return some additional equipment. So I walked across the studio to quietly send an email from my phone. Her, what are you doing? Me, I need to send a quick email. Don't send an email now, it'll look bad. Okay, but I'm sending a timed email to go out at 8 a.m. Don't send it here. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll go to one of our lounges and send it. Her, don't send it from the lounge. Okay, I need to send an email or I won't know what time to report. Should I send it from the lounge? No. Can I send it from the sofa? No. I'd rather you did not. Okay, so at this point I'm running on 6 hours of sleep total in 2 nights. She was doing something similar again, keeping me from working, and I started contemplating breaking up. It had reached that level of exasperation and fatigue and seemed like it would be the straw that broke the camel's back. But then I thought of some of the comments on here. I decided to hit pause. I looked at her and then put my phone down and walked to bed. I sat down across from her to have a calm conversation about what was happening. I asked, "What's going on?" She said she was just trying to be helpful. I said, "This isn't helpful. I'm being repeatedly interrupted. What are you doing exactly?" She said she's tired and wants to go back to sleep. I said, "I get that, but I had 2 minutes of work that I could have casually finished. We could be back to sleeping already, and now it's a whole thing." "Just let me sleep," she said, not really answering my question. At that point, on the verge of having had enough, this one additional exchange seemed to be tipping the scales in favor of breaking up. I took a breath. Then I gave her an ultimatum. "I think we're going to really need to see a couples counselor, and soon, or I'm due to have doubts about our relationship." This was very big for me because I don't really set ultimatums. To my surprise, she agreed immediately. "This is where I'm at. I'm sorry, I still don't have an official reason for any of this behavior. I'll just say I couldn't break up. We get along so well, and I feel like she's my twin flame in a lot of ways. The past few years have been the best relationship of my life. If I had to speculate, I'd guess that something about this project is triggering anxiety in her, and she's unable to manage that anxiety, and it's coming out in weird ways. I know her as a caring person, so I have a hard time believing sabotage is the explanation. Feel free to disagree, but I'm going to see this couple's counselor and try to get some better answers with a therapist in the room. Hopefully, that will prevent similar things from happening in the future because this is going to be one shoot of many. While I consider myself a tough person, I'd like to avoid a similar situation in the future. Ultimately, I love her dearly, and I believe in us. Thanks again, everyone. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I know being on Reddit, we're conditioned to reading all sorts of convoluted motivations and reasons for people's behaviors. But just consider Occam's razor. Whatever is the simplest answer often turns out to be correct. What that is, you would know better than most. In your 4 years together, has there ever been an instance where your girlfriend failed to comprehend what you were communicating? If there hasn't up to this point, then something has changed that you need to look into. What I wonder about is what her reaction was when you finally yelled at her. That was you drawing a hard line. You said that this too didn't work. But what might be more important is how this particular yelling failed to work. Did she keep her calm and keep asking you questions? Did she yell back and start an argument? Comment 2. I hate to be that person, but was she under the influence of any sort of substance? It just seems odd that a totally sober person, who in the past has a good understanding of no means no, that this was all ignored and she kept pestering you. She totally blew a red light. If she was in her right mind, she knew she was doing so. Has she ever reacted this way in the past? It is just totally bizarre to me. She didn't let things go, get the hint kept going. I've legitimately never heard of this unless it were from children, someone under the influence, or someone intentionally disrupting your boundaries, aka someone being hurtful. No sane, sober person who truly cares about you would act this way. A few times, yeah, it's just so odd it went on for hours. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a month since the whole gear checking fiasco, and boy, do I have an update for you. I wish I could say things have gotten better, but buckle up because this ride has only gotten bumpier. So, after the night of the interrupted gear check and the weird email incident the next morning, we started seeing a couples counselor, like my girlfriend agreed. It seemed like a step in the right direction. We've had 4 sessions so far, and it's been enlightening, to say the least. Remember how I mentioned that my girlfriend is somewhat obsessive in her career? Well, it turns out that her obsession isn't just with her career. During our 3rd session, our counselor suggested that my girlfriend might be feeling insecure about my success in my field, and that her behavior was a manifestation of that insecurity. I was floored. I mean, we've always supported each other's careers, or so I thought. But then came the bombshell. After that session, my girlfriend broke down and confessed that she had been feeling left behind as my career took off. She admitted that she had been trying to sabotage my work to slow me down so she could catch up. I couldn't believe it. The woman I loved, who I thought was my biggest supporter, was actually trying to hold me back. I was hurt, angry, and confused. I didn't know how to process this betrayal. We had always been a team, working on projects together, cheering each other on. To find out that she had been undermining me this whole time was a punch to the gut. But wait, there's more. After her confession, I started noticing other things that didn't add up, like the time she accidentally spilled coffee on my script, or the mishap where she deleted a file from my computer. I had brushed these off as accidents, but now they seemed like deliberate acts of sabotage. I confronted her about these incidents, and she broke down again, admitting that she had done those things on purpose. She said she was afraid that if I became too successful, I would leave her for someone else. It was a twisted logic that I couldn't wrap my head around. The trust between us was shattered. Every time she offered to help me with something, I couldn't help but wonder if it was another attempt to sabotage me. Our relationship, which had once been my source of strength, had become a minefield. Despite all this, I still loved her. I couldn't just turn off my feelings, and I wanted to believe that we could work through this. So, I suggested we continue with the counseling and try to rebuild our trust. She agreed, but it was clear that things were never going to be the same. The past few weeks have been a whirlwind of emotions. We've had more counseling sessions, and they've been tough. We've dug into our past, our insecurities, and our fears. It's been painful to unearth all these issues, but I'm hoping it will help us move forward. In the midst of all this, my girlfriend has been trying to make amends. She's been going above and beyond to show her support for my work, but it's hard to accept her help without feeling suspicious. I've been keeping my guard up, double-checking everything she does, which is exhausting. The latest development is that she's been offered a big role in a theater production, which is great for her. But part of me can't help but feel a twinge of fear that her success might lead her to do to me what she thought I would do to her. It's a messed up situation, and I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate it. Neighbors love my new lake house until I close off their secret access. Now they're screaming grandfathered in easement. This started over the summer and is continuing, so I am sourcing some outside approaches to dealing with these relationships. Last year, I purchased a property from the estate of a couple who had owned it for 50+ years. As they got older, they spent less and less time there. By the time they passed, they hadn't lived on site for almost a decade. The property is heavily wooded with lake access from the back of the lot and was in need of serious TLC. Because of the woods and the distance between the lots, I didn't expect to see much of my neighbors. But at first, I had people stopping by all the time, telling me how great it was that I was cleaning up and renovating the property. Awesome. I work from home, so it was nice to see the people living reasonably around me. So all is fine until the last steps, pouring a concrete pad for my van and finishing the fencing. I hadn't moved in yet, but once the extra driveway and pad were added, I parked my van. When I returned for the final move-in, there was a massive gouge down the length of it, as if someone had squeezed another vehicle by or dragged something else large by it. Anyway, I moved myself and my dog in, and because of the dog and the incident with the scratched van, I closed the gates. By doing so, I cut off access to the lake through my property. It appears the neighbors have been using my entryway and side yard to get down to the water for a while, as the old owners were never here to care. I started getting notes and knocks on the door about the problem I had suddenly caused. I don't mind the occasional neighborhood kid knocking on the door to cut through, but this was non-stop. Not kidding, like 3 to 4 groups a day, and they were not always terribly polite about it. I was even asked to move my van and vehicle so people could back boats down the driveway. I now assume that's how my van got gouged. I start by explaining I have a dog and the normal reasons for having a fence. However, I have been met with pretty intense criticism that I'm changing how things have always worked around here. The last straw for me was people opening the gate on their own and then getting upset that my dog was loose in the yard. I finally acted by putting up a no trespassing sign, a sign indicating that the dog was in the yard, locks, and an intercom by my doorbell. So when people ring, I can tell them I'm working and not have to come down to the door 5 times. Even though the summer season has come and gone, I'm still getting a steady barrage of notes and voicemail messages telling me that access to the lake is grandfathered in, as the previous owners allowed it, and it's been going on forever. These letters and voicemails are coming from 2 houses specifically, a woman in her 50s and a couple about the same age, who claim they represent the rest of the neighbors and the homeowners association. Although when I purchased my property, there wasn't a single thing about neighborhood covenants or an actual organized homeowners association. Sometimes the letters and voicemails take on a more formal approach. Other times, they're just informing me how bad of a person I am for ruining the neighborhood. My attorney assures me this claimed easement is absolutely not a thing, but these are people I'll presumably be living nearby for a long time, and I'd prefer to be on at least neutral terms. Is there a way to deal with this that I'm missing? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Honestly, the fact that they damaged your property before you even moved in, and that nobody has owned up to the damage or offer to pay to have it rectified, would have me steaming. Personally, I say, fuck them and their entitled attitude. If they had approached you politely and respectfully from the start, then sure, you could have been open to negotiating something, but this is just harassment and bullying, not to mention the property damage. Plus, they endangered your pet. Fuck them. Comment 2. You are not in the wrong. I had a very similar issue with my property. We went through the same troubles and did exactly what you're doing. Folks got the hint after the end of the second swim season. They will not like you for it, but those folks do not keep up your property or pay your taxes. Never give an inch, or they will take a mile. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since my last post, and boy do I have an update for you. Remember how I was dealing with the whole lake access drama? Well, things escalated quickly, and not in the way I expected. First off, let's talk about the couple in their 50s, the Johnsons, who were leading the charge against my no trespassing policy. Turns out, Mr. Johnson and I had a bit of a confrontation. He came over, pounding on my door, demanding I open the gate. I refused, of course, and that's when he let slip that he and his wife had been using my property for their secret rendezvous with other couples. Yeah, you heard that right. My wooded lot was their little love nest, and my moving in had put a damper on their steamy escapades. Now, the woman in her 50s, Mrs. Baker, she's a whole other story. She came over, all tears and apologies, confessing that she had been the one to scratch my van. She said it was an accident, that she was trying to back her boat down and misjudged the space. But here's the heartbreak. Mrs. Baker and I had actually started to become friends. We'd bonded over our shared love of gardening. And she'd even given me some cuttings from her prized roses to find out she'd been lying to me this whole time, that she damaged my property and said nothing. It hurt. I felt betrayed by someone I was starting to trust. But wait, there's more. Remember the notes and voicemails claiming that the lake access was grandfathered in? Well, I did some digging into the history of the property and found out that the previous owners, the sweet old couple, had a falling out with the Johnsons and the Bakers years ago. They'd actually tried to put an end to the lake access, but were too kind-hearted to enforce it strictly. So this whole tradition was based on a lie. Now, for the jaw-dropping moment. I was out walking my dog when I overheard a heated argument between the Johnsons and the Bakers. Voices were raised and accusations were flying. The Johnsons were blaming the Bakers for the whole mess, saying that if Mrs. Baker hadn't scratched my van, I wouldn't have closed off the access. The Bakers fired back, accusing the Johnsons of being selfish for wanting to keep their swingers' paradise at the expense of the neighborhood's peace. The argument came to a head when Mr. Baker, who had been quiet until now, revealed that he knew about the Johnsons' extracurricular activities and threatened to expose them to the whole neighborhood. The Johnsons were livid, and Mrs. Johnson slapped Mr. Baker right across the face. It was like something out of a soap opera. In the midst of all this chaos, I've been trying to keep a low profile. I've been working from home, as usual, trying to ignore the constant barrage of drama. But it's hard when every time I step outside, I feel like I'm walking into a battlefield. The latest development? The Johnsons and the Bakers have both tried to apologize to me, separately, of course. They've offered to pay for the damage to my van, and they've promised to stop harassing me about the lake access. But after everything that's happened, I'm not sure I can accept their apologies. It's clear they're only sorry because they got caught, not because they actually respect my property or my privacy. Fiancé cheated on me with his colleague, but now she gets what she deserves. I, female, 28. So we all work together in a hospital, unfortunately. They are paramedics and have worked together longer than I've been at the hospital. I knew my fiancé, Ian, when I was still in medical school about 6 years ago, but he moved, so our relationship ended. I ended up joining the residency program at the same hospital where Ian was working, and we ended up reconnecting, and after 2.5 years, we're getting married. We're actually planning to elope, as we're not the type to want a massive fuss. His colleague, female, 30, Sam, and he had a fling of some sort about 9 months before I returned. But it had finished before I had returned. So I decided to drop lunch into him before I started my shift yesterday, as they have been slammed working, as have we all. I'm stopped by his manager as I walk in. I talk to her, wish her a good shift, and give her an energy bar, and she points me in the direction of my soon-to-be husband. However, when I see him, his lips are locked with Sam's. I left. He ran after me, tried to tell me that he didn't kiss her back. She shocked him. He loves me and can't wait to marry me. I really want to believe him, but I also have respect for myself, and I won't let them make me look stupid. I stayed with my friend last night. Do I trust his word or? Edit. I've asked her for an explanation, and I'm going back home. He's being very honest and has requested CCTV footage for me to see. Admittedly, I've been insecure over Sam before. She doesn't particularly like me, but he did look very rigid when the kiss happened. We'll update later. Edit. So I went home last night and talked to him. He was very open and let me check his phone, laptop, etc., even showed his GPS history. I did feel a bit overbearing. Sam texted me back. She apologized and admitted it was her 100%. She said she had tried to go back to their old flirting ways, but Ian wasn't reciprocating. She said she was jealous of me because the relationship we have is so different from whatever they had, which was mainly physical, and that she was fed up with hearing about his beautiful, smart, long-lost love fiancé and how lucky he felt that we were able to reconnect. She said that, as I'd mentioned in the comments, she heard me coming and decided to try and make Ian look bad. She said that when their manager sees the footage, it'll back up her account of what happened. She said she's sorry and that her actions were pathetic, and that she'd ask to be reassigned to another paramedic to partner with, and that she'd leave us alone but has only asked for Ian not to report her, as she would lose her career. He said that it's my choice. If I want him to report her, he will. But I'm leaning towards just leaving it be. As long as she keeps her distance, I don't want her losing her career. I'm just happy to know that me not immediately jumping to the worst conclusion with Ian was the right choice. Also, for those saying it's fake, Aita what to say. Sorry if you feel like that, but it's an anonymous Reddit post. I don't have to prove anything. Also, for those saying it's not how hospitals work, not every country is the US. I won't say which country we're from, but we're European. Thanks for the advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. As a guy, I'm telling you there's no way someone can kiss me for an extended period of time in front of others unless I want them to. Maybe someone could surprise me by leaning in when I turn around, but if I didn't want it, you'd see me pushing them away and expressing my disgust. So, are you saying that a random homeless guy could kiss him just as long if he catches him off guard? That's complete nonsense. Comment 2. Ask your coworkers. If anything happened, they will likely inform you. You might want to consider postponing the wedding. Meet with him and ask to see his phone. If he's content with the fact that you're giving him another chance, he might be foolish enough not to delete anything. If he refuses to let you look at his phone after what happened, then you have your answer. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and advice on my last post. It's been a month since the whole Ian and Sam debacle, and boy, do I have an update for you all. After the last post, things seemed to be settling down. Ian and I were working through the trust issues, and Sam had been reassigned to another paramedic team. I thought the drama was behind us, but I guess I was naive. It turns out that Sam's reassignment was more of a strategic retreat than a surrender. She started spreading rumors around the hospital about Ian and me, whispers of infidelity, preferential treatment because of our relationship, and other nonsense began to circulate. It was like high school all over again, but with the added stress of saving lives on the line. Ian was furious when he found out, and so was I. We confronted Sam together, which in hindsight might not have been the best idea. She was smug, saying that if we had nothing to hide, then the rumors wouldn't hurt us. That's when Ian lost it. He yelled at her, something about how she was ruining our lives and that he wished she'd never come back into his. I'd never seen him so angry, and it scared me. The confrontation didn't stay private for long. Someone recorded it on their phone, and it spread like wildfire. The next thing we knew, we were called into the manager's office for a meeting. The manager was understanding, but said that the situation was causing too much disruption. Ian was given a warning, and I was told to keep my personal life out of the hospital. Things between Ian and me started to strain after that. The stress was getting to us, and we began to argue over little things. It felt like the trust we were trying to rebuild was crumbling. Then, one night, I caught Ian in a lie. He said he was staying late to catch up on paperwork, but when I called his desk, he wasn't there. I found out from a colleague that he had left hours ago. I was heartbroken. I waited up for him, and when he finally came home, I confronted him. He looked guilty, and that's when he admitted that he had gone for a drink with some of the guys from work to blow off steam. He hadn't told me because he knew I'd be upset about him spending time with the same people who were spreading rumors about us. I understood his need to vent, but the fact that he lied shattered me. It wasn't the act itself, but the betrayal of trust. We had promised to be open and honest with each other, especially after everything that had happened. That night, we had a long, tearful conversation about our relationship and what we wanted. It was clear that the events of the past month had taken their toll on us. We decided to postpone the wedding. It wasn't an easy decision, but we both knew it was the right one. We needed time to heal and figure out if we could move past this. Ian moved into a friend's place to give us some space, and I stayed in our apartment, surrounded by wedding magazines and unmailed save-the-date cards. The hospital has been awkward since then. I throw myself into my work to avoid dealing with the whispers and the pitying looks. Ian and I still talk, but it's not the same. We're trying to find our way back to each other, but it's hard when the foundation of trust has been so deeply shaken. As for Sam, she's kept her distance, but the damage has been done. I don't know if she's happy with the chaos she's caused, but I hope it was worth it for her. As for me, I'm just trying to get through each day, hoping that the next will be better than the last. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.